Hello, this is Margaret Ajibode, the STEM Positive Disruptor. And today on Mayor's Conversation, I have a special guest, William Lee. He's the Associate Director for the National University of Singapore, and he's also co-founder of Almatix. He'll tell us more about that. But you know what I do love about Williams is that he's very passionate about everything STEM education, in particular robotics and artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. And he's also enthused about trying to encourage more young people, especially from Singapore, to take on STEM and to study STEM because there is a need for these skills in the future. And unless we get our young people to be ready or future ready to take on these roles that are being created, because as we all know, engineering or technology or STEM as a whole is evolving all the time, and especially where technology is concerned. We've got emerging technology. AI is a big thing right now. Robotics is something that's been around, but Lord, it's also about the combining and ensuring that we are ready as society, as an industry, to make sure we can fill up those voids that this creation of new jobs. And this is where Williams is so passionate about. Again, the reason why we set up this platform, we want to educate, we want to raise awareness, we want to change people's perception and demystify what STEM is. That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We want to show the benefits of having STEM, being part of STEM and what we do and how it's impacting our society. We want to bring the public into our domain. We want to show them what we are all about, the different roles, the different needs, but also to enthuse more young people to think about taking on STEM, studying STEM at school, and becoming one of those that will fill in those roles that are being created, because there is a need for our young people to be future ready, as his term is future ready, get them to be future ready for the new jobs that are being created as well. But also it's about also getting the industry to start thinking and talking to the education system, because there has to be a way to marry the needs, the demands for what the jobs out there being created, and what is the education system teaching to enable that young people, that when they come out, they're able to fill those roles. And we will be able to so manage the skills shortage that we currently have in the industry too. So without further ado, welcome, Williams.
Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, go on.
Let me put a bit of why I'm really a standard, but it's really about industrialization. I think Singapore, as a country that it is 5.8 million people, it's actually half the size of London from the population standpoint. Throughout our history, independence, 1965, we have always been taking on industrial revolution. This is why we are among the richest country in the world, because we really exploit and capitalize on science and technology. The world that it is where we live is really man-made. So this is why it's so important that as we go along this STEM education and industrial revolution, what I'm seeing is the robotics AI is coming. Now, let me hold on that. Perhaps let's look a couple of revolutions prior to this. I think the first engineering or whatever that is in society is actually civil engineering. Humans came up from caves, built houses, and civilization started thousands of years ago. But really much true that within that time, whether it's going to be British Empire running around, but it was actually a steam engine in the late 1700s. That's where the coal industry started and steam engines started. Everything else gone into it. That was what, 250 years ago, 300 years ago? First industrial revolution. So if you are not part of that process, whether it's with digging coal, boiling water, or getting power of steam, you just could not find jobs. 100 years later, with steam engine, there's one gentleman, well before that was James Watt. Second revolution is actually by Thomas Edison. He figured out how to get steam engine to really put on a couple of windings of copper to generate electricity. So electrification happens there about the late 1800s. So you got 1700s, the steam engine, 1800s, the electrification. So again, if you're not part of General Electric, making light bulbs, connecting cables, you won't have a job. No, 2 revolutions passed. The third revolution is probably about 80 years later, probably slightly after the Second World War, mid-1950s or probably early 1960s, about 80 years after electrification. That was where those guys in Silicon Valley, why Silicon Valley? Because they managed to find circuitries to etch on the silicon oxide, which is transistors, semiconductors. That spells out the third revolution. Computers, transistors, everything digital happens for the last 50, 60 years or so. Then the talk of all this thing coming wireless, make factories automated. That is what the Europeans call Industry 4.0. Now, I mentioned 4 revolutions. It doesn't matter which time all of us, some of us who have gone through, all right? You will have to be relevant or before that, future ready for that industry. We are coming to a point which I'm plotting the lines and saying that there is a good chance the next revolution is coming, which is interesting. 4th revolution actually been declared by the Europeans only 2010, which is only 15 years ago. How could it be a next revolution happening? Well, if you look at the time span of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and 4th, actually the time between each one of them is shortening tremendously. So do not be surprised, even if 15 years past Industry 4, Industry 5 could be coming. Why is that so? I think needless to say, look at NVIDIA. It's hopping with the most valued company in the world, taking sides with whether it's going to be Apple or Microsoft. 2 years ago, probably nobody knows NVIDIA except those gamers that plays games.
Yeah.
And before that, a year ago, nobody even know about what is ChatGPT. But all this work has been done, part of artificial intelligence, for the last 100 years, and probably the last 10 years has been accelerated. Now, if those hypotheses and prediction would it be true? If artificial intelligence have last 3 years, could accelerate even much further in the next 5.
That's right.
So we are only 15 years from 4 to 5, or possibly 5 years, 15 plus 5 is only 20 years. Now, let's put a scenario. If Industry 5.0 comes along, are we ready in 5 years? That is shorter than any one of them could even come up with a master's degree by then. Mastery of what is that era required. So we are in pretty much panicky stage, because if it's only 5 years from now, if we just get our kids to go into grade 1, you take you the next 20 years, 16 years to get your bachelor's or master's degree. You're too late. Actually, in some sense, we're too late.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, how fast could we put this hypothesis on the table and enlighten not only the policymakers, but also parents? Take a look around. Why Industry 5.0? Why artificial intelligence? Why robots? In the past 50 years or so, automotive has been around. Automation has been around because of automotive industry. That is very mechanical, very machinery, very automation per se. But for the last 3-5 years, the artificial intelligence. So this has been traditionally A to B, the kind of automation, you know. Whether it's there or not, it's just A to B, the one whole day around in the factory. But now you're going to put artificial intelligence. It's not A to B, it's A to anywhere else.
Yeah.
You could imagine that piece of machine would just do anything else for you. Wow. So the scenario is to say, if this is true, how would the society respond? Actually, in my sense, everybody's in panicking mode. I got so many asking questions. Should I send my 6-year-old go to AI and say, hold your horses, really? All right. I know parents are all pretty much concerned with our kids. Me too, you know. But that is where we might want to take the opportunity now and tell everybody, get the fundamentals right. Robotics and AI is a full mechanical, electrical, electronic software thing, and this is totally computer science. When you put two things together, we're talking about the entire multidisciplinary field, including how the robot will respond to me or anybody else when you serve you coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be intimidated by any one machine, right? In a way, Terminator might remind you.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not about only multidisciplinary. It has a lot of interaction with society, because if those fellas would walk around you serving coffee,
yeah,
wow, this is so difficult to accept from a general standpoint. We need to just step back. If I mention about the era of Industrial Revolution to 5, again, hypothetically, 5 is just there. 1 to 4 has happened. So if you're not relevant in that particular, any one of the verticals throughout the 100 years, 80 years, 50 years, you're just out of job. So I want to jump in again to say that a lot of students and young graduates says, I want to do passion, and I want to do something that is my like. Actually, I just being, as I say, being very direct and candid. There's nothing that you can like. It's what you are relevant to that particular time. If the particular time you to go and mine for coal in the middle of that tunnel, then you probably bring some birds because if the poison gas coming along. Today got sensors, right? You cannot find jobs of your passion in that sense, but rather you get a job that is relevant to the time and put passion into it. That's the difference, correct? Because when you put passion, you make yourself love what you do, because you accept the time. And if you do that, your job is just so interesting. It's just so fun. So today, I want to put in the sense that just switch the word. Don't live by your passion. Work and put your passion into it. Now, STEM, passion, and what Industry 5.0? Are we too late? In a way, if my predictions are correct, based on the research that we've been doing for the last 10 years, and based on what you see, not me as a researcher, you see, does it happen?
Yeah.
Look at NVIDIA. Look at the whole world. Look at every single resume or CV that somebody writes. I can almost guarantee you, none of them will leave AI out of that piece of digital copy.
Of course.
None of them. Of course, They will just talk about it even you're not part of it. So every single HR will say, actually, are you sure or not? But we know this is probably one of the industry revolution. And yet they'll be called Industry 5. But people are already ahead of the time because of the greatness of internet. Now we need to start to separate all this and be concise in how we see all this as hype, euphoria, or truly it is. But if we do agree that whichever happens from Industry 1, 2, 3, 4, and go to 5, every one of them has a deep element of science and technology.
I totally agree with you. And I think that so I just want to interrupt you only because, again, I'm very concerned about time. Is that how can we become relevant? Because, again, you talked about not being driven by passion because there is a need. And if we can't say there is a need or there's a demand for something if we don't get ourselves ready for that. We also understand that there's been a revolution, and we also know that the revolution of change in the industry has got shorter, the time span. And based on your research, because you're a researcher, you're a scientist engineer, and the work you do in the university also, and based on what your work as a whole understands there is a need there's a demand. But if the industry and the education system are not talking to each other, we're always going to have the same problem, because again, it seems that when you look at the skill set that's been developed or the education system, it seems by the time our children are graduating, the need for their skill set is no longer as relevant as it is because of the change of work. Yeah, please.
Yes, I would like to pick on that particular statement. This is something that we need to agree, or at least we try to convince everybody, policymakers.
Yeah.
In the past, we got about 100 years between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We got 80 years between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
We got about 60 years between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
We got 15 years between now. If you look at it, those guys that did steam engine, mechanical engineering, you go 100 years, you can study to your very best on masters.
Yeah.
And you still got another 90 years of relevant application. Essentially, is you can pass it to your kid.
Yeah.
Because you got 80 years a cycle. Your company can do that.
Yeah.
Now, 100 years to 80 years, it got shorter. From 80 years, you got 50, 60 years, it got even shorter. Now we're talking about 15, 20 years. It doesn't even last half of a career, 40 years, 30 years, correct?
Yeah.
Now, this is very important. I need to make sure that I emphasize that people look at this curve. If this is true, the way we train no longer exists because we just cannot train. By the time the camera is over, it's over.
Exactly. And I think this is why I need you to give us what would you say? Because I think we're in agreement about what you're saying. We're agreement there is now a shorter lifespan, and therefore if we're going to meet the demands of the need, the jobs that need to be filled, and the skill set is not being taught in schools, or the way we teach is no longer relevant, what would you say we need to do? Because it's okay for us to talk about what's not working. What can we do to change that?
So I'm also pragmatic enough. We can't strip off from the education system whether it's going to be what we have developed for many years. But we need to figure out with policymakers the in-between. Okay. If you ask me the question, this is why the word STEM education is even more important. Yeah. Why? We emphasize it to the American terms called K-12. Well, in British terms, it's called O-levels or A-levels. Yeah. We focus a lot on that. Yeah. This is why the word STEM becomes more important. We emphasize on grade 1 all the way to grade 12, STEM education. All right. I don't want to over push it beyond. If they can figure out some extracurricular activities to complement the STEM education as a strong foundation. Yeah. All right. Now, this is why it's even more important, because if we leave it later, we don't have time. Yeah. So if one has agreed, now that's the other one in agreement is that when you go into tertiary education, whether it's in a polytechnic, college, or university, that is where probably the biggest change will have come. Why? You literally strip out half the degree. Yeah. You will ask the university to say, cut your degree to half. Yeah. And say now you study for 8 years instead of 4 years or 3 years. Yeah. But you continue working. Yeah. You work in the real world. So so in the sense that you don't obsolete yourself because you continue studying. Yeah, well, you have to do that. Yeah. Yeah, you got to figure out this hybrid. I know it's tough, but universities got to figure out how to halve the curriculum in the way that the other half you design to be very experiential. You design to be very project. You design to be very industry-based. Go and do internship, apprenticeship. Figure out how you measure those from a learning outcome, not from a result-oriented thing, but from learning outcome. And that is where you complement that formal education and with formal practice. And when you fully finish your thing in your education in the full block, you are not lost. You are actually half the speed and can continue. Then as you feel that you need more information, you drop back to university to do some part-time courses. So the adults of the future, which is the kids today, we've got to just hop in the university as if you're going for, it's just another place that you visit. Exactly.
Exactly. This is my concern. I think this is where we're struggling. I think in so many ways, the industry shooting itself in the foot because they are supposed to be working with the education system. And the education system is also, they're too traditional, they're too stringent in the sense that there is like this way or no way. And the industry said, oh, well, unless you go through this path, we will not accept you as being relevant for you to fill the gap. And I think in a way we're not, what we're providing and what we're doing is, it's like we're fighting, it's against each other. We're not really thinking out of the box. And so we're struggling with that. And also you talk about the policy makers have to do, this is why we need to have a conversation, the government, the industry, and the education have to talk, because really our projection, you talked about again the revolution of the industry revolution and how now it's getting shorter. You can't complain if you yourself are not changing. It's about changing your mindset, changing the way you do things in order to get the results that you desire.
Yes, exactly. Because we can't fault the system, because the system was a creation of the 100 years of Industrial Revolution.
Exactly.
All right. But now everybody got to change. The university has been too much just going so deeply into that, because they got 100 years to perfect every single revolution. They've been doing research, ranking of the best teach. But now, in some sense, some departments are probably slower than what those guys at NVIDIA are doing.
Yeah.
All right. Let's agree on that. All right. I know some of my colleagues will say no, but well, I'm just saying, let me have that conversation. And that's where the other way around is the industry are changing so fast. I mean, technology, the companies are hardly coping. If they insist that the guys will have to just stay in and deep dive, they just cannot be enabled and capable. So this conversation becomes, it's beyond you and me. And this is why we are here.
Well, why
we
should
are here to analyze the process, the time. Those are information that everybody can validate that. Time of change is much faster. So the question is that every single vertical is going through that rapid mixing up of stuff. It is just mind-boggling. So each one of us from every single vertical got to figure out how would this rotation cycle be in a very mixed mode. We are not there yet. We are still saying that you need to finish your master's, your PhD, and so on.
Exactly. This is why my frustration.
You say, hey, wait a minute. You need to free up yourself. You just cannot fixate with that.
Exactly, and this is my concern again. The industry is in so many ways is shooting itself, because it's saying, unless you go through this route, we want to accept you as being capable. And then again, you have people who qualify and they're not able to get jobs because they don't feel fit. They don't tick all the boxes. That's ridiculous. Don't complain if you're not willing to change. But also the education system is too stringent. They need to change. We need to start looking at the diversity of people that you're working with. And you, as an education, it worked up to a point. But now we are evolving so much that change, the education, the industry has to start changing in the way they look at things, how they do their recruitment, how they are accessing the people. You can't go to another country to recruit, whereas you yourself can do something and make those changes as well in your environment. And this is something that I don't know who the decision makers are really not making sense or not looking outward or projecting for the future. And that's why we're having this problem. And then, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. I said, look, Singapore has to think STEM. But then again, unless, as you're saying, the policymakers or someone who's wise enough start thinking out of the box, we're going to be struggling, because you can only impact where you have your influence. And unless those above that are willing to listen and change their approach, we're going to have the same cycle of problems that's never ever going to be fixed, because nobody wants to change. It's everybody else's fault, but no one else themselves want to do something about it.
So I would like to pick on the point you say that trying to get all the ticks before you get hired. I think that's a very good point. And that is probably one of the most important change the human resource need to figure out. As the custodian of the CEOs. We cannot wait for masters and PhD. I think the looking for candidates, which we start the conversation, is actually about a question. Can that candidate offer to put the heart and soul into what they are possibly doing and going to learn to do later? I think that's more important. As I think this is probably a lot of psychology in it, how we get parents and get students to run it through. I demonstrate to it. Excuse me. I demonstrate to it. If you read my LinkedIn, I consistently put on that philosophy because I'm a nobody. When I'm nobody, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn So I'm always here to say, sir, ma'am, this is my pen.
Yeah.
And you teach me. I think that is probably the most toughest to learn.
Yeah.
The humanity and the ground to earth.
Yeah.
I'm a nobody. I'm here to learn from you.
But that's
If
what,
that is possible,
yeah.
I can almost guarantee the children of today working for tomorrow.
Yeah.
As long as we need to learn, put their heart and soul passion into it,
Yeah.
you will be a nobody, but you can be a somebody,
Yeah.
perhaps like me in the future.
So true. Do you know, I love, you know, I can talk with you, but do you know, you know, you you got me, there are lots of good sense and things we need to do, and what you're saying and your passion also, but you know, it's about the mindset being changed, and there are lots of things we can do. I think if we're going to meet the demands of the future, we as the industry, we in the education system, we in the people in the policy, the government or the policymakers have to change their perception of how they do things as well. But you know, I love what you are saying. I love your passion. I love your drivers. I love the thing that you know. You said it's about humbleness. It's about understand that you are that you, nothing's beyond you. You are willing to learn anything and try new things as well and challenge yourself. That nothing is beyond you trying. It doesn't matter if you're saying talk about sweeping the floor. I think this is part of one of the things that I think the same guy who created the is in Denver, where he said to when he went to speak to his school, and he said, look, you know, I have cleaned so many toilets more than you. And even though I've came to the school, and it's like he said, look, but nothing's beyond me. I'm willing to learn, and that's what basically you're saying as well. And I think this is what we need to tell them. So very briefly, just one word, what would you say? Because I'm conscious of time and I want to wind this up as well. So that I want them to hear you and listen to what you've said. Because what you've said is so powerful. The revolution of industry, or the evolution of the industry, and the fact that things are getting shorter, the industry, the changes is so fast and furious now. Now, unless we take stock and do something, we are going to have big problems. So, one thing that you would like everyone to consider.
I think we started with STEM education. Make sure that the foundation is good.
Yeah.
Once you build a foundation,
Yeah.
do between the formal education and informal education.
Yeah.
And make it as lifelong learning.
Mm.
With that, most important, the cream on top of the cake is always offering yourself to say, I'm a nobody, but I'm willing to learn from you to be a somebody.
Yeah.
If that is the attitude, if that is the approach, I can almost guarantee you will be a somebody in time.
Indeed. That's powerful. That is so, so powerful. You know what? I'm celebrating you, Williams. I love, you know, you've got your tagline, but I think you're much more than that tagline. You are somebody, you are just, you're an amazing guy. I love your drives, and I really do not quench it. I don't want it to ever stop, because what you're saying and what you're doing it's changed, it's impacting so many people, because people are listening to what you're saying. And I'm so grateful that you've come on my platform to have a conversation with me. I know it's very short, but it's a powerful conversation, and I want people to listen to you. So you know, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I know it's in the after 9 p.m. in Singapore, and you're here with me. You know, but I am truly grateful for what you've done and what
Thank you for the invite. Thank you
well,
for the
no,
invite.
thank you so much. So thank you so much. And look, everyone, I so want you to listen to the conversation I've had with William Lee. He's an amazing guy. He talks practical sense. He calls me, he's a scientist engineer or engineer scientist, however you want to look at it. But you know, when we think about taking the journey and how industry is evolving so quickly, unless we as society or the education, the policymakers and the industry start talking and start changing our mindset in order to cope with the changes that are happening so fast, we're always going to have the same problem. So again, thank you again, Williams. Our aim here is to educate. We want to raise awareness. We want to change perception. We want to demystify what STEM is. That's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We want to showcase what we are doing, what STEM is all about, how it's impacting our society, but also to be able to provide solutions that will change our industry to enthuse more young people to think about STEM and make STEM fun as well, because we're not just nerds. William calls himself a nerd. We're much more than that. We're nerds that wears t-shirts. So you're kind of a cool nerd. So so you want to be like Williams, who's a cool nerd. He wears his jeans and he talks fun. And he also provides practical solutions as well. So please subscribe, make comments, share with your networks. Let's spread the word. Let's bring the change that we want to see in our environment, because we are the change makers and we are the ones that bring positive change. It's not about complaining, it's about providing solutions. And this is what Williams has done today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for the time.
No problem.